In the quiet rolling hills of Hocking County, Ohio, the town of Logan felt like a place where the old-world values of faith and family still held firm. Among its residents, the Inman family was often seen as the gold standard of Christian devotion and moral integrity. William Bill Inman, the patriarch, was a man who didn't just attend church. He radiated a certain kind of charismatic authority that commanded absolute respect. Alongside his wife Sandra, they presented a picture-perfect union that had lasted since their teenage years in 1983. To the outside world, the Inman household was a sanctuary of harmony, a beacon of light in a modern world. They were the ones in the front pews every Sunday, their voices raised in song, their hands always ready to offer a blessing to those in need. But as any student of true crime knows, the brightest light often casts the deepest, most distorted shadows across the soul. Within the privacy of their esteemed home, a different kind of gospel was being preached, one of absolute dominance, psychological isolation, and a slow-burning madness. This madness would eventually culminate in a crime so cold-blooded it would leave the entire state of Ohio in a state of shock. In 1984, the couple welcomed their son William Jr., known to everyone as Will, who was molded from birth. From the moment he could walk, Will was shaped in his father's image, taught that the man was the undisputed head of the spiritual house. He was raised to believe that a husband was a king, whose word was law, and whose control over his family was divine. In 2001, history seemed to repeat itself in the most idyllic way when a 17-year-old Will met 15-year-old Summer Cook at church. It was a meeting reminiscent of his parents' own origin story, appearing to be a match made in heaven by the community. After a 3-year courtship, the moment Summer turned 18, they were wed in a ceremony full of hope. Summer, young and full of dreams, moved into the large Inman residence, unaware that she wasn't just joining a family but entering a cult. By 2004, Bill Inman's religious fervor had taken a megalomaniacal turn as he no longer wanted to be just a member of a congregation. He transformed his garage into a makeshift sanctuary, declaring himself a minister and inviting the public to witness his self-styled brand of faith. Neighbors were initially skeptical, but Bill had a magnetic pull that drew people in, seeking solace in his prayers and his garage. Soon, the garage church was drawing crowds, and people began to leave financial offerings to the man they trusted. Despite the influx of donations, the family's financial foundations were built on sand, and Bill's spiritual ambitions simply did not pay the bills. In 2006, the entire clan, Bill, Sandra, Will, Summer, and their newborn son Alex, relocated to Florida in search of a new financial beginning. They worked in construction, building hotels by day and maintaining their tight-knit insular world by night, away from any outside influence. But the Florida sun couldn't bleach out the toxicity brewing within the family hierarchy as the men tightened their grip on the women. By 2008, they were back in Ohio, having lost their Logan home and settled into a rural rental. The family continued to grow with the arrival of 2 daughters, Kelly and Alana, adding more weight to Summer's domestic responsibilities under their roof. On the surface, Bill Inman was reaching his peak, obtaining a formal pastor's license and founding the Ranch of Mercy for the homeless. He launched a massive lottery, selling tickets for $10 with the promise of a $200,000 grand prize, amassing over $1 million. But while Bill was playing the role of the benevolent savior, the atmosphere inside his own home had turned into a nightmare. Summer Inman was no longer a wife in a partnership. She had become a captive in a psychological and physical cage. In the quiet hours of the night, while the rest of the house slept, Summer began to document her reality in a secret diary. Her words, discovered much later by investigators, serve as a haunting testament to her suffering and her desperate desire for basic human freedom. "I'm so tired of pleasing everyone," she wrote in one entry. "I'm exhausted. I'm just a slave running around following their orders." The level of control Will exerted over Summer was pathological, extending to every minute detail of her daily existence in the house. She was not permitted to use a phone, had no access to car keys, and her diet was strictly monitored. Even her sleep was a privilege that had to be granted by Will, and she was often confined to the home for days. Will began to speak openly about polygamy, browsing websites for sister wives, and threatening her with violence if she ever tried to leave. When her pet cats mysteriously vanished, Will laughed, claiming they simply escaped through a window. Though Summer knew the truth was darker, the message was clear. In this house, things that Summer loved had a habit of disappearing if they didn't serve the family. By June 2010, the spirit that Bill and Will had tried to crush finally flickered back to life within her. Summer decided she was done with the abuse and the Ranch of Mercy facade, taking her children and fleeing to her parents' home. For the first time in her adult life, she could breathe without permission and speak without fear of immediate divine or physical retribution. She found a job cleaning a bank in downtown Logan and even began a new relationship with a man named Adam Peters. But for the Inmans, Summer's departure wasn't just a divorce. It was a theft of their property and a public humiliation. They viewed her freedom as a personal insult to their religious authority and a threat to their carefully constructed social image. The fall of 2010 saw the Inman family's world begin to crumble as the Ranch of Mercy lottery was exposed as a complete fraud. No house was built, no prize was awarded, and the $1 million had seemingly vanished into the Inman's private and hidden bank accounts. Simultaneously, they were being evicted from their rental for unpaid rent, their holy reputation in tatters, and they blamed Summer for their fall. When Summer and Adam tried to retrieve her remaining belongings in December, the confrontation turned violent as the Inman men showed their true faces. Will threatened Adam and assaulted a police officer, leading to a restraining order that legally barred him from approaching his estranged wife. To the Inmans, the secular law was an irrelevant nuisance compared to their own distorted sense of justice and their need for total revenge. They began to track her every move, learning her schedule and knowing she cleaned the bank late at night when the streets were empty. They prepared a white Ford Crown Victoria, a car that looked like an unmarked police vehicle, and they waited for the perfect moment. March 22, 2011 arrived, and the clock struck 11 p.m. in Logan as Summer Inman finished her shift at the bank alone. It was a cold night, and she stepped out into the alleyway to take out the trash, thinking of her future. She had just texted Adam to meet her when the white Crown Victoria pulled up and the doors flew open in the dark. Two men in black balaclavas leapt from the vehicle, acting in a terrifying, synchronized harmony that suggested they had practiced this many times. They grabbed her, and despite her desperate screams and the way she fought with every ounce of her strength, they began the abduction. Two joggers passing by froze in disbelief at the violence unfolding before their eyes, unsure if it was real or a nightmare. A bystander tried to rush to Summer's aid, but the driver of the car, the grandmother, Sandra Inman, leaned out and fired pepper spray. The intervention was neutralized by the chemical burn, and Summer was shoved into the back seat as the doors slammed shut forever. The car roared out of the alley, disappearing into the darkness of the Ohio night before anyone could record the license plate or help. By the time Adam Peters arrived at the bank minutes later, the alley was silent, and the love of his life was gone. He found Summer's phone and keys scattered in the dirt, her music player still on the ground with the headphones still plugged in. Her jacket lay in the grass like a discarded skin, a chilling sign of the struggle that had taken place moments before. For the next 72 hours, Logan, Ohio became the center of a media firestorm, as hundreds of volunteers joined the police in a search. Every abandoned barn, every wooded acre, and every creek was scrutinized by people praying for a miracle that would never come to pass. But the police weren't looking for a random kidnapper. The description of the car and the blonde woman pointed to the Inman family. When investigators tracked down the white Crown Victoria, they found zip ties, a tarp, and a bottle of bleach inside the trunk. The Inman family, Bill, Sandra, and Will, were taken into custody, initially holding their holy facade with stone-faced and eerie silence. But the pressure of a capital murder charge eventually cracked the foundation of their silence, and Sandra was the first to finally break. She led investigators to a remote church in Athens County, a place of worship that had become a place of unspeakable, cold-blooded murder. There, behind the church, in a septic tank, they found Summer's body, hidden away as if she were nothing more than common household waste. She had been strangled with a zip tie, a death so clinical and cruel it defied the comprehension of the seasoned officers. The Inmans hadn't just killed her, they had tried to erase her very existence from the earth in an act of pure spite. The trial of the Inman family was a descent into the heart of human depravity, exposing a family that had collectively chosen murder. The prosecution proved that the $1 million from the lottery was gone, spent on a lifestyle of control and the tools for this crime. In the end, justice was as heavy as the stone that covered Summer's grave, and the Holy family was cast into prison. Bill, Sandra, and Will Inman were all sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, their Ranch of Mercy revealed as a horror. Summer Inman's story remains a reminder that predators can hide in the pews, waiting for the light to go out on the innocent. As the investigation deepened, a single image on Facebook became a catalyst for rage. Summer had posted a photo of her new life, smiling alongside her partner Adam and her children. To Will Inman, who strangely remained on Adam's friends list, this wasn't just a picture. It was a public declaration of his loss of ownership. The irony was bitter, as Adam had originally been hired by the Inmans themselves in 2010 for household chores. It was under their own roof that Adam and Summer first locked eyes, sparking a bond that Summer's diary described as a war between her heart and her rigid upbringing. She wrote of feeling as though the devil had taken hold of her because she dared to love someone outside the family's iron grip. This internal conflict eventually gave way to a desperate pursuit of happiness, leading her to file for divorce. The legal battle that followed was a demeaning spectacle, with Will contesting every penny of child support. Despite the Inmans' claims of being a wealthy, chosen family, Will suggested paying a mere $50 a month, claiming he earned next to nothing. When the court rejected their petition for full custody, Bill and Sandra began to physically deteriorate from the perceived slight. By March 2011, as the search for the missing mother intensified, the police tracked the Inmans to Bill's mother's house in Jackson County. The family presented a united front of calculated ignorance, spinning a tall tale about a midnight trip to Cleveland that was thwarted by car trouble. They sat before investigators with practiced calm, painting Adam Peters as the villain who had dismantled their once harmonious home. However, the Inmans' technological oversight would soon be their undoing, as the very vehicle they used for the crime held the evidence of their lies within its digital memory. Detectives seized a GPS receiver from their white Ford Crown Victoria, which told a story far different from their Cleveland alibi. The data showed the car was in Logan on the night of the abduction, with the device being manually deactivated just as the crime began. Phone records placed all three family members at the scene of the kidnapping, not on a dark highway miles away. Further evidence emerged from a local car wash where the trio had been seen scrubbing the interior of the car at dawn. They were even spotted replacing perfectly good tires with used ones to alter the car's profile. The pressure in the interrogation room became unbearable as the evidence mounted against them. While Bill assured his mother that this was simply a test from the devil, the reality of a death sentence began to weigh heavily on Sandra. After hours of grueling questioning, the matriarch's resolve finally shattered into pieces. She confessed that the mission on March 22nd was her design, though she claimed it was only meant to be an intimidation tactic. She described the horror of the backseat as Will used plastic zip ties to bind Summer's neck, hands, and feet in a frenzy. Sandra recounted a moment of sudden, panicked realization when Will noticed Summer had stopped breathing. He reportedly screamed for a knife to cut the ties, but it was already too late for the young mother. According to Sandra, their only goal was to force Summer into a custody agreement, never intending for the encounter to turn fatal. On March 29, 2011, a week after the disappearance, Sandra led police to the final resting place. It was a location of twisted significance, a septic tank on the grounds of the very church where Bill and Sandra had married decades earlier. The scene was gruesome beyond words, as investigators removed a heavy concrete slab and unscrewed the metal lid of the well. They were met with the sight of Summer's legs. She had been unceremoniously dumped headfirst into the waste. She was still wearing her work shirt, which bore the hauntingly prophetic phrase, "I don't have anger issues, I have issues with idiots." The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as slow, agonizing strangulation. There were no other marks on her body, only the deep, bruised indentations of the zip ties that had stolen her life in the back of that car. During the 2012 trial, the male Inmans remained chillingly stoic, refusing to look at Summer's grieving parents or offer a single word of remorse. Only Sandra showed emotion, weeping openly and begging for forgiveness, claiming she loved Summer like a daughter. However, those who knew the family's inner workings remained skeptical of her mastermind confession. They knew Bill was the true architect of every family decision, and they believed Sandra was simply falling on her sword to protect her husband and son from the ultimate penalty. It was a final act of loyalty to a toxic patriarchy. In the end, the scales of justice leveled the Inman dynasty. Bill and Will were sentenced to spend the rest of their natural lives behind bars without the hope of parole. Sandra received a life sentence, though she remains eligible for parole after 15 years of incarceration. The children, Alex, Kelly, and Alana, are now being raised by Summer's family, far away from the shadow of the Inman name. For years, the family struggled to explain to the children why their father and grandparents simply vanished. Summer's light was extinguished by those who claimed to be her protectors, leaving behind a legacy of survival. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of the human heart. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.